as we were sitting in the waiting room, Chris just said the sweetest things that were out of nowhere, and like those get to be my final memories of him, and that I struggled really hard with the fact that he died at home. Like, your home is supposed to be your sanctuary. Like, how could you let death come down and touch our home, and then I have to stay here? And he just pointed out, heaven also came down to your home and got him, and you felt him leave, and you knew where he went, and it was mercy that he fell asleep in the arms of his wife and woke up in the arms of his father. And it was mercy that I struggled so hard that I couldn't, that in the 7 minutes that I tried to restart his heart, that I failed after how I cared for him. And he said his heart stopped, and he never suffered for a moment. You couldn't have restarted it. And so he just pointed out all these places to me where he was there, and when I just asked why over and over again, was so faithful to remind me that in the most critical moment of our Christian history, when Jesus was on the cross, he didn't intervene. And because of that, we all get redemption. And so this is all part of the redemption story.
So you've walked through all of this, and you've walked through the grief, and you've walked through the suffering. And so you're in this season of waiting. You're waiting for the harvest. And so I guess what I would ask you this is, if you could leave the people with one thing, like, what would that be? What advice would you give someone walking through suffering right now? Like, what's the biggest thing you learned?
Well, I think the biggest question we always have when this stuff happens is like, why do bad things happen to good people? And that's so hard to answer. And I would just point people back to, at the fall, like God's original plan was not for there to be brokenness and grief and death in the world, but because of sin, we have those things. And so at the time of the fall, he put a plan into motion to restore the whole world and bring everything that's broken back under his control. But that, in the meantime, is going to include tragedy. And so, but this is not his plan B. At the time of the fall, he set this plan in motion. And so this has been plan A all along. And it's really hard to look at Chris dying and say, this is good. Like, at face value, our human minds cannot look at that and say that this is good. But it is a part of his plan A, and because I believe in salvation, then I have to believe that the rest of his plan is good. I love the verse, Psalm 27, 13 and 14. I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage, and wait for the Lord. And that word wait literally means to long for and to bind yourself to. So in this season of I'm believing for the harvest, but I don't know what it looks like, just binding myself to the Lord and knowing that plan is going to be good. And Job says in Job 42, so the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life, even more than in the beginning. And so I just believe that I'm in that gap in between chapter 1 and 2, like tiptoeing towards the harvest that I can't see, and I don't know what that looks like. And that does not mean that it's not painful. I'm still mad a lot of days, and I would change the story if I could. But if it went my way, if you think about Ruth, if her husband hadn't died, she wouldn't have gone, I'm going to give a little spoiler, she wouldn't have married Boaz, and that's in the lineage of Jesus, So, like, I just have to look at it and believe that because I believe that he is good, then I believe that he is for my good. And so I'm just going to leave with this last verse from 1 Peter. I think it sums up suffering really well and the ultimate promise of redemption. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. And that's really, like, heaven is the finish line.